The story begins with the introduction of Yuya as he places himself in front of a bunch of scary-looking men wearing black suits and sunglasses in front of him in the living room of his house. As the men start asking him about his father's whereabouts, it seems that he doesn't have any kind of knowledge of him, and they hand him a letter written by his father to him. It seems that his father had run away, leaving his son all alone, which makes Yuya remember his father's motto. Despite the fact that his father left a huge debt on his shoulders, he gets reminded of the fact that his mother still loves him unconditionally, as she even retained her youthful beauty for him. The whole scenario makes him feel like his mother was blinded by love and thinks of his father as the lowest position a man could ever have. Then when it comes to the debt that his father left on his shoulders, according to the men, it comes to about 30 million, as he kept borrowing money again and again to pay back the money he borrowed. Despite the scary looks contained by the men, Yuya doesn't seem to be scared of the man communicating with him, as he knows Takashi since he was in primary school. Takashi continues to insult Yuya's father for leaving him in such an insulting position, as he feels like he has left his son behind and ran away abroad in the end, which leaves Yuya to deal with all the lawyers until he meets the end of his life. Not only that, but also his father claimed that he and his father left to hit the casinos in Las Vegas, which practically feels like a miracle to Takashi, as despite having such shitty parents, he ended up growing fine as a good person. Then when Takashi thinks about the whole situation, knowing that his boss wouldn't be lying down this time, he would end up having to take him with him. The moment Yuya thinks that he will have to end his life by working as a laborer somewhere. At that moment, Takashi claims that he will persuade the boss to have him work under his wing to protect him. He and his coworker promise that they will do their best to take care of him so he doesn't end up becoming like them, living his life as a normal high schooler. Suddenly his doorbell rings and a girl named starts the day by greeting him. Yuya feels like he is currently standing in front of a goddess who had flown out from a famous painting to appear in front of him. It seems that he surely knows the girl, and her name is Hitotsuba Kaede, as she is quite popular in his school because of being nominated as the prettiest high school girl in Japan. But the only thing that astonishes him is that she isn't supposed to know him in the first place, as they have never communicated with each other, let alone told her about the address of his house. When Yuya starts to blush while looking at her, she starts checking his temperature, acting as if she is quite concerned about his well-being. The moment she starts asking to get into his house, he starts believing that it cannot possibly happen since he has Takashi in the other room. The moment those guys meet eyes with the girl, they start asking for her to leave since it might be bad timing for him, and for some reason Takashi seems to know about her. The moment when Takashi claims that he wants to have a chat with her, Kaede states that she knows about his identity as the lieutenant of the ᴅᴇᴜᴛ syndicate, which shocks all of them, including Yuya. Yuya assumes that it might be the weirdest thing ever since she isn't supposed to know about this part of the world. And instead of being concerned about Yuya's attention, Takashi starts asking her about the knowledge she has about them. When Takashi keeps on pressing onto the situation even more while being mocked by Kaede at the same time. She reveals that her name is indeed Hitotsuba Yuichiro. She seems to be related to the chief of the National Police Agency's Investigation Bureau, as he is her uncle. When Takashi continues to ask about her intentions, she answers saying that the amount that Yuya's father owed them is about to be transferred to the syndicate at a later date to them, including the interest, so they could lose their grasp on Yuya. When Yuya is already dwelling in his deep thoughts, Hitotsuba's mother enters the scene introducing herself as a lawyer, which positions Takashi in a rough situation. Takashi starts to find himself in a sticky position and demands to ask her what she is about to do in the situation, which creates an even more rough situation for the mother and daughter duo. According to her mother, Yuya's father's debt will not be burdening him in the first place, making Takashi clear that he will never lay a hand on Yuya, which is his first promise to them. He starts to dwell in deep thoughts as Yuya could never believe what the contents of the envelope would be carrying, which ended up clearing his huge debt all of a sudden. When Takashi confirms the whole situation to be ended, Hitotsuba ends up holding her hand, insisting that he should be relaxing as it is about to be fine soon enough. Then when it comes to Takashi leaving the house, Hitotsuba's mother insists him to have some tea, but he ends up leaving with his mates, claiming that he and Yuya will never be meeting ever again in his life. As everyone leaves, Yuya finally notices that Hitotsuba was quite scared of Takashi in the first place, as she continues to shake on her own. And he holds her hand to calm her down. As Hitotsuba gets prepared to elaborate on the whole situation to him, and according to her, the condition that fulfilled the debt for him was that he will have to live with her from then on, which feels like a weird joke to him. As they end up sitting inside the living room, Hitotsuba calmly states that from now on, Yuya is nothing but her property, while smiling in front of him, revealing the condition to him. When Yuya doesn't seem to understand the situation at all, he demands to ask her what she really meant by him turning into her property in the first place. The whole thing then makes Hitotsuba remark that he will be acting as her pet from now on, which ends up making him root for himself instead of being mad at her, as he believes that she must be in her thoughts and fantasy after all. As the situation calms down, she reveals that Yuya's father came to her mother begging in tears, and until a month ago when his father suddenly contacted her, all he could say was "help me" on the phone. It seems that Hitotsuba's mother held his mother accountable as she continued to cheer him in every way, and the whole thing makes Yuya feel like his father must have been insane, feeling like he would end up beating him until he is satisfied. While Yuya is engulfed in anger and agony, Hitotsuba claims that all his father could say in the end was to request for them to leave his son from the situation, as he surely doesn't want to ruin his son's future while crying in tears. But the situation is still blurry to her mother, as she surely doesn't know Yuya at all. And then Hitotsuba adds that the main reason she had to accept the whole thing is because Hitotsuba simply selfishly asked for it to happen. According to Hitotsuba, she had been obedient her whole life and never asked for anything selfishly for her own. And the moment her family knew that she wanted something for her own, they agreed instantly. It seems that the reasons were that Yuya surely didn't have to do anything in this matter. And another reason is that she surely wants to start living with him, which gets the whole situation even more sticky for him, as he doesn't understand the depth of it. Hitotsuba ends up claiming that she wants to be with him for unfair reasons, and she hands Yuya over a written pledge to her which he would have to sign to her to make sure that the contract stands. It doesn't only stand between them living together, as the story for Hitotsuba is about to end with both of them being graduated and getting married together so he can be adopted into her own family. He couldn't even imagine how his parents ended up approving it, as the whole thing feels like nothing more than a fever dream to him. Then when he is flabbergasted in the worst way possible, she suggests that he shouldn't be worrying much as she intends on providing for him, and since she has a good heart, he will continue to feel bad for her taking care of him. If that happens, it seems that Yuya will start working beside her father so that eventually he can become the company president of the Hitotsuba Group. Which is the main thing they agreed on in the first place. As Yuya couldn't help but wonder what is even happening with her parents and herself, he thinks that his head is about to be blown up on his own, holding all this information to himself. To make a concrete statement in the end, Hitotsuba elaborates that he doesn't have any kind of way to reject the idea of it, as both of his parents have given their approval, since he can start expecting the worst. Yuya thinks that he might have a general idea of what will happen, as he will be working like a slave as an employee of the Hitotsuba company. But to contradict all of his thoughts, she remarks that if he ends up refusing the offer, he will continue to be her butler for the rest of his life, and adds that if he ends up being her butler, he will never have the chance of doing anything naughty with her while puffing her chest in front of him. The words coming out of her mouth start making him feel like he is living in a different kind of hell right now, as he can tell that she is forcing herself to make her say these things. Moreover, having the kind of relationship with her while acting as her personal butler doesn't seem too bad for him, but she wouldn't ever accept the idea to begin with. As she ends up stating that pure love would be way better for them, as he would want to profess his love proudly to her while acting all cute in front of her. When he compares the face she shows to the world and her current state, he thinks that he will be one of the few boys who know the true face of Hitotsuba Kaede, and ends up claiming that he will be accepting the negotiation on his behalf. He adds that since it wasn't his place to refuse her in the first place, so he would avoid that, and clears up the fact by saying that he will get to live with her and marry her for real. Then when Yuya states that the whole thing must be amazing for him in the end, Hitotsuba starts up almost instantly asking what is wrong with him, and he doesn't understand her reason to ask him something like that all of a sudden. When he awkwardly asks her nothing must be wrong with him, she asks him back then why he would be crying on his own then. Yuya doesn't seem to understand that even though he might be freed from his parents, his tears aren't stopping in any way, as he feels like his chest is about to burst open for real. At that moment, Hitotsuba ends up embracing him all the way, claiming that it will be alright since she will be with him right now until the end. The moment he loses her embrace, Yuya starts embracing her on his own, which makes Hitotsuba state that even if he is suddenly all alone, it is obvious that he will be feeling lonely, but from now on he can continue to be happy. Later, Hitotsuba suggests he should start packing once he manages to settle down with his decision, as they will start demolishing his house almost immediately. The whole idea of demolishing the house feels insane to him, as he had never thought that the whole house of his would be gone all of a sudden. To add more information to the matter, Hitotsuba claims that the whole plot will be cleared to have a house to be rebuilt and rented out, so the whole thing would act as some kind of income from the rent that they will be getting. As Yuya starts to cry on his own, she suggests that their love nest has already been prepared, and it is better for them that they have the day off the next day so they can go on to do some shopping for them. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to Yuya at all, as he thinks that his head is about to go blank, and ends up accepting the fact in the end, as he thinks that his hopeless father's blood is flowing inside him as well. Since he might have made a life-changing decision on the spur of the moment instead of judging it with a clear and content mind, which would end up getting him to regret in the end. The scene shifts to Hitotsuba Electrical Appliances main tower, as this year is supposed to be the 100th anniversary of the electrical manufacturing that Japan boasts to the world. It seems that Hitotsuba's father is the fourth generation to lead the company, as it might be an old-fashioned hereditary system. But he thinks that they should be piercing through the stereotype with effort. For that reason, Hitotsuba thinks that Yuya should be following his footsteps and he should be prepared to deal with it, and it feels quite like a death sentence to Yuya for some reason. He knows that he will need to be the sharpest tool in the shed to do that, as he will be required to deal with tens of thousands of workers every day to live up to their expectations. Then when it comes to the selection of universities, Hitotsuba prefers that he will be attending one of the private universities, as he won't be able to waste his time by working part-time or some other circle, while he could be learning things from his father at that time. Also, she insists that he needs to be wasting time on her instead of following the others, and she states that no matter how weird his fetishes might be, she will be meeting his expectations in any way possible to make him understand her value. Yuya claims that he fully understands her claims and starts asking why she would be helping him, as they didn't even really know each other in the first place despite studying in the same school. She then claims that even though they didn't really talk before, she had been watching him after school soccer club practice this whole time. Soccer is the only thing that Yuya continued to follow through from childhood till now, and it seems that on a certain day in the summer, everyone may have returned home at that time because of the scorching heat. Yuya continued to practice at that time despite thinking about his well-being. The look that he had on his face that day, persistently kicking at the ball while having the roughest expression wearing on his face, which didn't use to show often that of desperation. From that moment, Hitotsuba thought that Yuya was a whole different person from her, as he was someone who would put his heart into something and give it his all in it to make the best of it. Before she even knew anything, he ended up stealing her heart at that moment without even intending to do so. She continued to root for him while praying for his hard work to be rewarded, but that didn't end up meeting her request, as his hard work wasn't rewarded to him in the end. Despite wishing that Yuya's team would be going to the finals, all of them were eliminated in the third round of the district tournament. But that alone didn't make him lose hope. Yuya continues to practice all alone, even though she thought that he would be resting for a while or stop practicing all alone. That act alone made Yuya paint in her heart as an amazing person, as if her heart became glued to him. Then Yuya thinks that it must not be the case, as he might not be the person she thinks that he is. And according to Hitotsuba, no matter what he says, she has already fallen in love with how he ended up putting his heart into doing the things that he wants to do. She also adds that she will be taking any kind of measures to make him her, so no one else is able to notice his charm and take him away from her. This whole time Yuya couldn't help but wonder how someone like her, being the cutest girl in Japan, ended up being charmed by him kicking a ball like an idiot every day, while he didn't even know anything about her. But still then, Yuya claims that he understands her feelings for receiving such a proposal from a girl like her. Still, he doesn't know much about her, and for that reason, he decides not to respond to her feelings for now. At that moment, Hitotsuba states that the whole situation is fine for her. The response that he gave her already made her feelings grow for him even more. While Yuya contemplates the situation on his own, Hitotsuba continues to dream that one day she will be making him hers and will be having him kiss her for the first time, with the hopes of immediately pinning him down. Yuya thinks to himself that the whole day has been ruined for him, as the picture that he had inside in his mind of Hitotsuba Kaede has already been ruined. According to Hitotsuba, everyone wears a mask on them, and that fact applies to him as well. So when she ends up asking Yuya about her true self, Yuya claims that he doesn't have much information on her in the first place and thinks that it will be better for him if they get to know each other gradually. Then when Hitotsuba is about to say more about her future plannings, Yuya holds his hand on her mouth to make her stop, as he wasn't able to take more of her absurd thinking. Then Hitotsuba requests him to start packing, and when Yuya asks where they are about to move, Hitotsuba claims that they are about to head into their love nest. They are about to live together from now on. When it gets 9 p.m. at night, the luxury imported car arrives for them to take them into their new house, and Yuya thinks that Hitotsuba is the culprit of this whole scenario. But despite his weird feelings and thoughts, he thinks that Hitotsuba has changed from her previous self, as she looks quite dignified and beautiful that she cannot help but admire it in the first place, being too embarrassed to even elaborate on it. Then as he thinks of breaking the ice between them, he ends up asking her where the car is taking them, as he doesn't even know the location they are heading to, but instead of answering to his question directly, she states the same thing as before by adding that he shouldn't be worrying, as they are about to get the best rooms in the whole house, which will be taken care of by her father himself. Yuya enlightens her, saying that the matter isn't like he doesn't trust her, but he asks her if she was about to say that the whole thing was a drama created by her. Then Yuya notices that they are already in the popular Bay Area, which is filled with many new condos, basically like first-class hotels, which should be way beyond out of place for high schoolers like them for sure. Then Hitotsuba happily claims that he is indeed right and praises him for being so well informed. But all these things are known by Yuya, since his father was the one who used to digest all the trendy information on the television in the first place. As Yuya dives into deep thoughts of his own, Hitotsuba states that if he can do that much in this point of his life, he will be doing truly well under her father's wings, since she believes in him. As Yuya keeps on blushing on his own, they finally arrive at their new home, which is one of the most luxurious condos he was talking about just a minute ago in the car. He thinks that there is no way he would be living in this place with Hitotsuba, and Hitotsuba makes it clear that their place is on the top floor, so they should be heading in already. Even before he could say anything, she grabbed his arm to herself and got into the elevator, and he is trying his best not to faint because of the confusing situation. As the elevator continues to climb up, he continues to look nervously all over the place so the time passes. As the elevator stops and releases the door, Yuya looks at the place only to see a full-furnished luxurious place full of expensive things which feels like a dream to him. When Hitotsuba asks if he truly likes the place, Yuya is quite shocked to ask her if they are truly about to live in this place, which is quite unbelievable for him as he doesn't come from a wealthy family. According to her, this is truly the reality, and when it comes to cooking, Hitotsuba states that she is quite good at that too, so she will be cooking for him no matter what he wants to eat. The whole conversation makes Yuya remark inside his own mind that it doesn't matter since he can cook as well, so they can be taking turns or maybe have a roster system in the first place. But it isn't his concern at this moment. He notices that the whole room is quite larger than what he expected it to be, as the living and dining rooms are almost the size of 30 tatami flats. As most of the furniture inside the house has a calming design on them with a large TV on the wall. Not only that, but also there is also an elegant and glittering night view of the bay from the large windows, which can let them have a passionate moment with each other. Realizing that he is thinking quite too far for this time, he starts to hold his thoughts for a moment, which gets noticed by Hitotsuba. When she asks him about it, he starts to react ironically, claiming that he is totally okay and wasn't having any kind of weird thoughts about them together, which just ends up making Hitotsuba smile on her own. Hitotsuba remarks that he is quite a strange person, but she likes that he is trying his best to act like a gentleman, which she loves so much. When they finish conversing with each other, Hitotsuba thinks of having their dinner. And at that moment the doorbell rings and Yoshizumi leaves their baggage on the door while leaving their pizza for them to have dinner. Also, when the driver named Miyamoto gets inside the house, Hitotsuba offers the man to have dinner with them since he must not have ate, but he rejects the idea, politely claiming that his work has already ended, so he shouldn't be disturbing them. As the man begins to leave, Yuya realizes that the man must be truly an elderly gentleman, which is added to the information given by Hitotsuba, who claims that he had been working for them since her grandfather's time. As they prepare to have their dinner, Yuya notices that Cokes came with the dinner, and Hitotsuba remarks that he must know one more thing about her now. Yuya adds that she is not much different than the regular high school girls, which makes Hitotsuba hope that they will be getting along just fine. Then when Yuya gets on to open his Coke can, he ends up splashing the whole thing on his face, making him realize that Hitotsuba is nothing less than a prankster despite her appearance. When they finish having dinner, Yuya asks to Hitotsuba if he can have a bath at that time, and Hitotsuba allows him to do so as the house carries all of the facilities for him to enjoy. Then before heading to the bathroom, Yuya notices that despite all of the usual rooms in the whole house, the bedroom is the one that is catching his eye. He most sensed the bed is a king-sized one with 2 pillows and a comforter. As if that was prepared for a married couple. The moment he notices the bathtub, he imagines that they are about to share it together as well, which makes him gasp while holding his mouth. The whole situation starts to weigh him down, as the more he thinks about it, the more it gets him nervous. While he was blabbering on his own, Hitotsuba ends up hearing it, and it makes Yuya state to her that he doesn't do those things forcibly while keeping his head down. Then when she goes on to poke him by asking if he is about to have a bath alone, Yuya notices that she doesn't have to act brave by asking that while she is shaking surely on her own while standing in front of him, which she calmly disagrees to. Knowing that the situation is rough, Yuya turns on the TV, claiming that she should be watching the TV while he is bathing, so she cannot be peeking inside. Then when it comes to spending the next day, both of them decide that they will be choosing something that they both agree on since they are about to live together. As Hitotsuba is quite excited to see how the next day goes. Yuya thinks that the whole scenario in front of him is like a dream right now, as a whole day ended up changing his life for sure. Then when Yuya goes on to have a bath to relax on his own by locking the door, Hitotsuba tries her best to open the door but soon realizes that it isn't about to work much as the way she thought that it would. The time alone leaves Yuya to think what he is about to do with the situation he is about to face when it comes to the bedroom. While Hitotsuba was taking a bath in the washroom, Yuya was waiting for her in the living room. And in the meantime, Hitotsuba was calling out his name, asking if he is about to peek at her, ensuring that the door isn't locked. Instead of listening to her calls, he continues to think about the bedroom situation, as he still couldn't make up his mind on what to do to avoid it. Then when he brings up the topic of laying down on the couch, Hitotsuba starts protesting it, strictly insisting that the bed is big enough for both of them. Yuya thinks that if he gets closer to her, he will be dying from just her pure attractiveness, which has been doubled by her from taking the bath. He seriously thinks that it will be the reason for his death, and no matter how much he thinks about them, Yuya thinks that he is in no way as good as she is for him, and which gets her other ideas in her mind. She brings up the topic of assaulting out of nowhere, assuming that it might be the reason, and Yuya is quite shocked at how someone like her is talking about things like that so easily. As soon as she continues to get closer to him, Yuya ends up falling on the ground, mistakenly insisting that he is okay. While she continues to stare at him, Yuya feels like it will continue to get his urges under control if she keeps on acting like that, and she suggests that even if he ends up hugging her, it will be okay. When Yuya realizes that Hitotsuba already knows how much she knows about his wish of hugging her tightly, and gets embarrassed as it might look quite obvious to her already. But he keeps on holding on to his pride, thinking that he isn't easily swayed by lust, so he will not be giving in that easily. She then claims that it will be fine if he doesn't hold her, but she will still need to make him sleep on the bed beside her since he will catch a cold easily if he doesn't. While acting quite seriously, Hitotsuba realizes that he is sweating quite profusely and suggests him to take off his clothes so she can take care of him, and it gets Yuya worked up as he thinks that she might be undressing him in her mind. Yuya throws a bonk on her head, calling it a punishment, which gets her to facepalm on his face once again. As Yuya admits his defeat, he claims that they will be sleeping together just as she has suggested, but they will have to keep distance no matter what. Without backing down, Hitotsuba continues to tease him after seeing that he is constantly getting flustered over the matter, and Yuya tries his best not to smile after hearing her bicker with him sweetly. Realizing that she might be saying those things to get him nervous, Hitotsuba elaborates that he is the first person who she has expressed to after her family, so he shouldn't be taking it lightly. Then when Yuya goes to bed, Hitotsuba turns off the light and gets on with drying her hair, which starts to make him wonder about the obvious thoughts inside his mind. Soon, Yuya ends up falling asleep, thinking that he is tired enough as he began to lose consciousness in the darkness. In his dreams, Yuya ends up seeing his father and mother bidding their farewell to him, and the moment he goes on to stop them from reaching the blackness of the mind, saying that he wants to go with them. His dream ends up shattering in an instant when he realizes that it was just a dream. Yuya sighs and starts getting up from the bed, reminiscing the pathetic dream that he had seen. He realizes that his parents have literally thrown him away from their life, and even though he used to have a harder time than the others, he never imagined that they would be leaving him alone like this. Yuya starts crying on his own, asking in the back of his mind why they had to end up leaving them in the end, as he just wants to know the answer to it. Then when he is wiping the tears off of his face, Hitotsuba comes around. But Yuya thinks that it might be his silly imagination, as there is no way she would wake up at this time for him. Then when he starts reaching to the bedroom without making any noise, so she doesn't end up getting awake for him, and he was met with a strange but beautiful sight. Hitotsuba is seen sleeping on the side he was on, and he starts to wonder how that ended up happening, as he isn't making any kind of mistake assuming this. Then instead of thinking about the matter even more, he abandons his thoughts to keep it under the covers to sink his head into the pillow that Hitotsuba was just using a moment ago. He feels that all of his pains are getting washed away by the warmth that lingers on the pillow, is slowly cleansing his heart as if he was given the choice. He wouldn't want to let go of the warmth for the thoughts that are filling in his mind for the moment. Then in the morning when Yuya wakes up, he realizes that he is quite heavy-headed as he wasn't able to get much sleep because of the nightmare that he had. He directly goes on to have a good bath to fresh himself up. As he gets out of the bath, he goes on to access the TV to play some games on it, but hesitates to do so as he thinks that Hitotsuba would be feeling bad if she ended up finding him playing all alone without her. He thinks that he would be feeling the same as if his live-in partner did something fun without him. He would be devastated as well. He starts to take in it heavily as he thinks that he is even hesitating to entertain himself while thinking about Hitotsuba, and makes up his mind saying that he cannot be playing when she isn't around him. Then he suddenly notices that there is no fridge in the house, and as he walks by, the butler walks up on him while greeting him, which startles him quite badly. Then the man presents the breakfast packages to him, and it seems that he has brought the famous burger from Hitotsuba's favorite place, as they will be eating them as breakfast. Yuya feels like Mr. Miyamoto is able to read his mind as well. But he thinks that it might be weird to have hamburgers in the morning, assuming that they might not be as light on the stomach as him. Miyamoto adds that Hitotsuba ordered him directly to fulfill her wish of bringing hamburgers in the morning, and he couldn't help but wonder how well Hitotsuba could handle junk food, as she is eating them day and night. He starts to feel a bit uneasy remembering that she wanted to cook for him in the first place, and Miyamoto suggests him to take time with her as her dish is quite peculiar, but the taste is great. Then when it comes to waking her up, Yuya thinks that he would better wake her up first and then eat the food. But Miyamoto suggests that he should just go on with it, as she doesn't really wake up early in the morning, so he can have his bath and wake her up later for it. It seems that Miyamoto will be accompanying both of them, and he excitedly claims that he will be there for them soon enough. When Yuya goes on to have a bath, he starts to reminisce how it would make him feel if he was able to share the bath with the cutest girl in the whole Japan. He didn't know that Hitotsuba would end up hearing him, and she claims that their fortune will be lasting him forever, as they are about to be staying together forever. Suddenly Yuya notices that Hitotsuba is already in the bathroom reaching up to him, which makes him react in shock, asking what she is even doing in the washroom with him when he even refused to share the same bed with her in the first place. The moment Hitotsuba walks in, she notices that Yuya is quite nervous about this situation, and as Yuya continues to beg her to move on with it, she claims that she was lonely after waking up as she wasn't able to find him in the room. As she keeps on bragging that she doesn't want to spend a single second without him, Yuya thinks that his sense of reason is about to evaporate any second now, as he cannot keep on seeing her like that. She predicts that Yuya must have left the bathroom door unlocked because he may have fallen for her, and she presses on the situation even more, noticing that he is now hiding his face in embarrassment. He realizes that she must be naked under the towel that she is wearing right now, and all he knows that despite the towel being wrapped around her, he can already tell that she has a beautiful figure as her skin is looking quite mesmerizing right now. As she notices his nervousness, she remarks that Yuya must be surprisingly innocent about it, as he continues to keep his eyes closed so he doesn't have to see her body once again. On the inside, Yuya knows that he surely wants to see her body, but he also knows that if he ends up looking, he thinks that it will soon be over. At the same time, she keeps on suggesting him to take a look, assuring him that she has wrapped the towel around her nicely, as she would also be embarrassed to get naked in front of him. Then Yuya decides to take a look at her, as she has already assured him about it. He senses that it is okay for him to take a look, but still feels the conflict rising inside his mind, as it doesn't change that it will be a big problem for him if she ends up joining him. Suddenly, Yuya realizes that there must be a punchline and guesses that she must be wearing a swimsuit underneath, and it seems to be the truth also. She claims that he must be quite a genius for guessing something like that, and reveals the most surprising thing, as she was surely not wearing anything inside. The moment Yuya notices her naked body, he starts wheezing in embarrassment, and Hitotsuba claims that hanging around naked is the best way to understand each other. Yuya desperately claims that he would like to hang around naked in a bed at night, and Hitotsuba adds that she will not be letting him to sleep the whole night while purring like a pussycat. Feeling betrayed, Yuya ends up coming out of the bathtub, and Hitotsuba continues to look at him from behind, thinking that he must be a meanie after all to leave like that rushing. When they are both done with taking a bath, Hitotsuba gets prepared and asks what he wants to do at first, as she was thinking of looking at some cutlery and appliances. She thinks that he must be still mad at her for barging into the bathroom like that, and she thinks that it will be better for her not to make some ruckus like that to brighten up his mood. But she also adds that she will be doing it properly the next time in bed, just as he wished before, and asks for him to forgive her while acting like a cat once again. Yuya couldn't hold it in and decided that he will be making an exception and will be forgiving her for once, as he will not be talking to her once she does something like that for about 3 hours. When it makes him smile, she states that he is quite cute, as she likes his reactions when it comes to these things, and presses on the matter, saying that they have to get dressed to get outside at first. Even though Mr. Miyamoto is about to pick them up, she thinks that it will be taking them quite some time to finish the shopping, which is quite necessary. Yuya confidently starts wearing his clothes, and he knows that it doesn't take him so much time to get ready, as he just needs to fix his hair. Hitotsuba insists that he is okay just the way he is, and she likes what is inside his heart more, so his appearance is just secondary to her. She also adds that he shouldn't care what the others are saying, which feels unfair to Yuya. After they finish their lunch for the day, they go on to visit the electronics retail store to buy a set of home appliances, including a fridge and whatnot. Even though it had taken them quite some time to make up their mind, the clerk ended up helping her to make her decision, as Hitotsuba completed the purchase by paying in full cash. She adds that even though her father trusts her belief, she thinks that it will be wise for her to let him know about their purchases, and she insists that she will be mentioning the clerk's name by taking her business card. Then when it comes to having the dinner for the night, Yuya insists that he will be preparing the dinner for them, and he adds that even though he has a craving for her cooking, it doesn't have to be the same day, as there will be plenty of opportunities for them later. Hitotsuba starts to blush in happiness and states that she will be showing her skills the next day for sure, so he should be prepared for it in the end. When Yuya presents his cooking in front of her, she feels like Yuya must be some kind of genius and starts predicting his favorite food, calling it a Hamburg steak. Then when Yuya notices that she is talking out of guesses, he decides to agree instead of breaking her heart, while feeling that he might be tasting some abomination the next day. While Yuya continues to eat, as the topic changes to video games, Hitotsuba ends up asking him if he truly likes the heroine in the game who has huge breasts on her. While he is having a hard time answering the question, she claims that she must be having the big ones, asking him if she is unattractive. Nervous Yuya feels a strain to answer her question and ends up standing to make his answer clear, saying that if she continues to play around with him like that, he will end up losing his mind and do something with her. Then when she warns him that she will not be letting him sleep the whole night ecstatically, Yuya ends up rolling away to cover himself with a blanket, which makes Hitotsuba say that she will be making it true one day for sure. The next day, Yuya woke up at 6:32 a.m. and thought it was time to wake Hitotsuba up for school. Hitotsuba had mentioned the night before that she wanted to go to school with him and thinks that it will only be natural for them to do so. Even though she starts insisting him to do something like that, Yuya thinks that the whole thought sounds kind of weird to him as it doesn't really happen in the real world for sure. He tries to make her understand that it will be troubling for them to go to school together, and it is kind of viable to him as she is the most beautiful high school student in Japan. But she thinks that it will not be causing any kind of problems as they are living together. So she would rather take it as an option to show off to people. Then when Yuya remarks to her by asking who she would be showing off to people, she bravely claims that she will be showing off to everyone that Yuya is her official boyfriend from now on, as she will not be giving him to anyone else. The moment Yuya ends up hearing her thoughts, he is pretty much speechless about it, and realizing that he is blushing, Hitotsuba starts teasing him for it as he is quite bashful for the moment. To enforce his choice even more, Yuya claims that there is no way he will be attending the school with her as he will not be waking her up in the first place. Hitotsuba starts gasping in shock and starts calling him a demon for saying something like that as they even sleep on the same futon, so he needs to wake her up for sure. Then in the morning it seems that the sole reason why Yuya decided to wake up early is to avoid going to school with her, but he also knows that he cannot let her sleep any longer since she won't be able to attend the school. Then as he reaches the room to call her from sleeping, he insists to her that she will be late if she doesn't wake up. But instead of getting up from the bed, Hitotsuba starts to wobble her head and insists that she will not be getting changed, so he will be needing to undress her for sure. After hearing Hitotsuba, Yuya gets nervous as he notices that she is reacting even faster than him, even though she isn't fully awake at the time. Soon, he realizes that she must have been doing the whole drama intentionally, as she is even grinning slightly from time to time. Realizing that he will be needing to pay her back with the same type of drama, he goes on to hold her arm saying that he will be undressing her right now, which starts to get her flustered, but she ends up accepting it in the end. Then when he finally undresses her, he notices that she isn't wearing anything under. And she ends up hugging him as he continues to stare at her. As she keeps on haggling with him in her half-naked state, he warns her that if she continues to tease him like that, he will be eating her up, which gets her even more flustered. When Yuya finally reaches the school, he gets greeted by Shinji, his close friend, as he starts asking him about his tired state after a long time. While Shinji continues to tease Yuya, AI arrives asking him if something good has happened to him. AI is nothing but a rival for Hitotsuba, as she is another ace among the girls. In the class, all of them continue to discuss poems and classwork. Yuya curiously ends up asking them about Hitotsuba. It seems that AI holds Hitotsuba in a higher position when it comes to the thoughts of girls, and she thinks that she has been blessed by God. When Shinji knocks it out saying that she already has someone in mind, Yuya starts to fluster on his own but ends up proclaiming that she must be out of her league. But his peace didn't stand for too long as one of the girls came up to him running only to reveal that Hitotsuba had confessed to Yuya already. The girl who came running to Yuya is Itsuki, and Yuya starts to wonder who must have said something like that to her. And it seems that Hitotsuba was the one who wanted to confess to him the other day. Shinji comes around calming down the situation and suggests Itsuki to ask the surrounding before revealing something that's sensitive, but ends up getting curious himself in the end. He starts to calculate if it is the truth depending on what Yuya has told him before, and it seems that Atsuki is kind of sensitive to this topic as she fell in love with Shinji at first sight, and Shinji feels the same for her as well. Atsuki continues to tease Yuya by saying that Hitotsuba looks like she is the happiest person right now, which might be the reason what they are talking about right now. At that moment, even AI gets curious about the situation and starts asking Yuya about it directly, which gets our man Yuya to sweat uncontrollably. Then when Hitotsuba comes around saying that she is devoted to Yuya and he can even have her body at night, Yuya gets annoyed by her remarks as he made her promise that she wouldn't be saying these things in the school. Yuya felt like he was dreaming when he was hearing those things, but he is irritated to see that Hitotsuba is seriously present in front of him, calling him her dearest boyfriend. Even though she has already accepted our man, Yuya protests saying that he still hasn't accepted the fact that he will be with her till he end, and instead of listening to his bickering, Hitotsuba presents the lunch for him, asking if they are about to eat together. When everyone moves on from the room as the lunch break will be over, Hitotsuba warns Yuya to hurry up as the time will be over, and if he ends up having no seat, he will have to sit on her lap. As Yuya is about to leave the room, AI calls Yuya to determine if the lunchboxes are both matching for Hitotsuba and him, and when he goes on to leave without answering, she claims that she will be taking his silence as yes. Then when AI asks to join them in the lunch, Yuya couldn't say no to her, and Hitotsuba calls him a cheater for that reason. When Itsuki praises the hamburg steak made by Hitotsuba, AI joins in the conversation saying that she wants to taste it as well. When Yuya is nervous about sharing the food with her, she ends up grabbing his hand to take the chopsticks away from him, which just feels like an indirect kiss to Yuya. Then Hitotsuba takes her glorious entry in the conversation, asking AI to have her hamburg steak, only to realize that the food is quite delicious. Then Hitotsuba continues to charge at Yuya, asking if he is truly that close to AI, and AI enters only to create more nervousness at the moment. In the end of the lunch break, when everyone starts to charge at Yuya for having matching lunchboxes and matching packages and food, Hitotsuba ends up releasing the news of Yuya and her living together. which creates a massive troubling situation for Yuya as everyone demands an answer from him. Then when it comes to Yuya's practice match, Hitotsuba continues to cheer for Yuya, and it seems that Yuya had to let all of his friends know whatever happened between Hitotsuba and him to some extent to make their nagging stop. Thanks for watching my video to the end. Write the secret word, Yuya, and share your opinion about this manga. Did you like the recap? I'm really looking forward to your feedback. If you're not subscribed, it's time to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to like and comment. Your opinion is very important to me. Bye bye.